Hey guys, what's up? It's Brian from Cross Coast Gaming with another Java tutorial. It's hard to say no matter how many times I say it. So last time we made our tile class, and this episode might be one of the most difficult ones we're going to do because we're making a big change. We're making the leap from, these white boxes here to actual textures. So that is a big change for our program. So it's going to be kind of complicated, but hopefully not too bad. So I made some visual aids that can help us out a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is I want to change our width and height. I decided for our textures, we're going to use 64 by 64. I kind of experimented with, doing 16 by 16 or 32 by 32. But I think 64 by 64 looks pretty good and we can get a decent amount of tiles on the screen. So I'm going to change our height to 1280. I'm sorry, the width to 1280 and the height to 960. And if we take our calculator here and we do 1280 by 64, we have 20 tiles wide, and 960 should be 15 tiles high. So that's going to be our width and height for now. Hopefully that works for everyone. I doubt anyone's on a display smaller than that, but if so, you can just scale down. And we forgot to, before, in our GL ortho, we need to set these to the width and height variables that we made, because we don't want just random numbers. We want, if we change the width or height, for everything to update, not to go and manually do it. And while we're inside of the begin session method, we're also going to do, we're going to type in GL enable GL texture 2D. That will enable us to draw textures to the screen. And let's see. I guess the next thing to do is to make the actual draw quad texture method. So we will do a public static void draw quad text, and it's going to take a texture text, and then the rest is the same as the method right above it. So x, y, width, and height. And it's pretty much going to be similar to this one, but with a few slight changes. So the first thing we need to do is do text.bind. And what that says is we're binding our texture that we passed in here as our first argument. We're binding that to OpenGL. So all of the commands that we run as far as drawing to the screen, we'll be modifying this texture until we bind a new texture. So text.bind. And then we're also going to translate GL translate F, put in our X, our Y, and 0. It takes an X, Y, Z, but since our game's two-dimensional, we don't have a Z, so it's 0. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about translate. So I tried to draw in MS Paint, but it didn't work out that well. Like last time, my screen was very non-rectangular. So I made some in Photoshop, spruced it up for you guys. So the way we've been drawing things, if we want to draw a square, so say this whole window here is our screen. We want to draw a square or a quad. We've been using global coordinates. So the way we do that is the top left corner would be from the very far left of the screen. All of the pixels to the top left is the X. And then from the very top of the screen, all the pixels from the top down to the top left corner is the Y. So for our draw quad, we would always set the top left corner to the X and Y coordinate, right? And then the top right would be that length of X plus the width of the object for X plus width, and then Y down. So I mean, all this stuff should hopefully look pretty self-explanatory since we've already been over it, but I thought this was a nice visual aid regardless. So what translate does, what we're doing right now, is we're using local coordinates. So with local coordinates, it's saying that the X and Y, which we passed in our method over here, X and Y into the translate, is going to be this top left corner of where we're working for this texture of our workspace. So before, with global coordinates, what we were doing previously was 0x and 0y would be up in the very top left corner of the screen. Now when we translate it, we're saying we're going to work just with this area And the new 0, 0 is where we translate. So our x and y, which would be right here, x, y. So when we bind this texture and when we're drawing the texture to the screen, we're going to do what we did before where we set each vertex for the square, right? But we also need to set each corner of the texture. It's also called a vertex, but it's slightly different because for the texture, this is what we're going to set. We're going to say 0, 0, which is the top left corner, 1, 0, which is the top right corner, 1, 1, bottom right, 0, 1, bottom left. And then in between those, we're going to set the vertexes, which because we're translating is going to be, instead of x plus width, this is just going to be width right here. So I don't know if I'm confusing you guys or not. It was supposed to be simpler, but let's just get to it. So let's go back to Eclipse, and hopefully you will see what I mean here. So the first thing we need to do is start our quads again. So GL begin, GL quads. And then we're going to do GL text coord 2F. And like I said, the first one's going to be 0, 0, which is the top left corner of our texture. And then we're going to do the vertex at the top left, which is GL vertex 2F 0, 0. Because our x and y has now been translated to 0, 0. So before we were saying x and y, but since it's translated up here, we can just ignore that. And 0, 0 is now the top left of our texture. So now we're going to do the top right corner. GL text coord 2F 1, 0. It's the top right corner. And for the vertex, GL vertex 2F, it's going to be the width and 0. Because remember, we've gotten rid of the x and the y, so all that's left here is the width. Bottom right corner is going to be GL text coord 2F 1, 1, GL vertex 2F width height, and then bottom left GL text coord 0, 1, GL vertex 2F 0 height. What did I do here? Oh, 2F. And then after that, to prevent screen tearing, we're going to GL load identity, and you can mess around with that and delete that line and see what happens otherwise. And I think we need to end here, and that should be it. So in the next video, we are going to load the textures from a resource folder that we'll create and use this new method to draw them to the screen. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.